Welcome to the show, everyone. I'm JJ Flizanes, your empowerment strategist and producer. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today, we're going to talk about sexy confidence, and I will tell you that the video is really fun. You might want to come over to jjflizanes.tv to watch the video of today's episode. Before I tell you about Kimmy Seltzer, I wanted to remind you that I am doing, along with Allison Melody, a free workshop about 3 ways to build self-esteem. And that is happening on Thursday, August 18th. There will be a free gift for those of you that come live, but there will be a replay for 24 hours after the workshop is over. After we did our self-esteem show, we thought we needed to go a little deeper and a little longer and a little more personalized and specific for those of you out there who would like to work on your self-esteem and to get to know where to start. So I appreciate that this is on the heels of also today's show about sexy confidence, which is more about the relationship between, yes, the way that you feel and what you put out into the world. What Allison and I are doing is sort of separate confidence, so it doesn't really matter if there's anyone else involved, but both are needed and necessary because, of course, we live in the world and we're around people. So we want both. So I hope you enjoy today's episode. Kimmy Seltzer is a confidence therapist, authentic dating strategist, and image expert. With a vat of knowledge and experience as a therapist, certified style coach, dating coach, and matchmaker, she has helped people find lasting love and connection, attract success, and build valuable relationships using her unique confidence makeover process. Using an outside-in approach, Kimmy implements targeted style, emotional, and social intelligence in people's lives using her signature formula, the Charisma Quotient, working on body language, first impressions, image, wardrobe, and flirting and how it impacts attraction. She is giving away her style guide. You'll learn more about it on today's show, but you can go to kimmyseltzer.com/style to get that. And also back to the 3 ways to build self-esteem. You can sign up for that at jjflizanes.com/self-esteem. Enjoy today's episode. Welcome everyone to the show today. I'm with a good friend that you've heard on the show before if you've been listening for a while. So I'm excited to bring to you today sexy confidence. But before we get started, in case you found us because you liked that title and you're on YouTube, or you know Kim and you're coming here to find out more about her, I just want to make an announcement that this is my show and I am an empowerment strategist, not a host. What does that mean? I'm going to talk. I'm going to have an opinion. I'm going to have a point of view. I may have a few stories. So if you don't like me, totally cool. Kim, where can they find more of just you if they don't care for me?
Just me. It's kimmyseltzer.com is probably the easiest, or at Kimmy Seltzer is on all my socials. Totally easy.
Awesome. Okay. So today, and if you're on the podcast listening to this, we did a video. So come on over to jjflizanes.tv. In fact, you should subscribe so you always get because they actually come out like the night before the podcast. So you can actually get it the night before. But we are doing this video. So come on over and meet Kim. I know you've gone from Kim to Kimberly to Kimmy, and I can't get off of Kim. So sorry, is that okay?
It's totally fine. What's in a name? And I go by all of them. Okay. Although all my URLs are now Kimmy Seltzer. Thus why I go by Kimmy. I couldn't get the other URL. So that's another story.
Well, it's been a long time and I don't even, where did we even, we've known each other for so long. I have lost track of where we met. I don't
even know, JJ. I just feel like you've been in my life forever. And I feel like in the fitness world and the speaking world, we somehow crossed paths, but I'm so happy to do this with you again. Cause
I know it's been a long time.
It has been. And a lot of twists and turns have happened since then.
Absolutely. Well, so I've known you since at least 2013. I know where we met.
What?
Jack Barnard. You and I did that.
What?
The improv class. You and I did an improv class together. That's how we met.
Wait, that cannot be the first time.
It is the first time. And I remember you in your pink pants and your black shirt on the last day that we did I think it was our performance or something. And we took a group picture, which I'm sure I have somewhere. But anyway, that's how we met. We met through Jack Barnard and the improv class that happened in Marina Del Rey, West LA area. We did an improv class together, which was super fun. You were very good. I remember. And because there were well, because we're in that speaking theater performing kind of, so that that was no problem for us. That was super easy. Anyway, sorry. I knew if I just spent a second with it,
God.
I would remember where we connected.
I love that you remember the improv, but more importantly, I love that you remembered my pink pants, because I probably have like new pair of pink pants. It's my brand. So I like,
it is your brand. And
so like kind of what we're talking about today.
It is what we're talking about,
Right.
Sexy confidence, and making a statement with your style, with your style choices, with your clothes. So let's go back, because when I met you and we were doing that, you weren't focused on that yet, were you?
I was, I just think that the focus has kind of changed to a more holistic focus. And thus, the name of my podcast is Charisma Quotient. And it's actually the formula in which I really help people with. And there's kind of these three pillars. One is style, of course. I call style intelligence. The other is emotional intelligence. And the third is social intelligence. It's really looking at those three pillars and how that creates attraction, how that, impacts love, and so on and so forth.
Well, today, since a couple weeks ago, Allison, another good friend of yours too, Allison, Melody, and I did a building self-esteem. And what we did not talk about at all, didn't touch whatsoever. It was more of, again, the mental, emotional stuff. We did not talk about style or social aspects of that, or body confidence, or anything in that realm.
How about flirting? That's so part of it, right?
We did not talk about any of that.
Don't get me started. Yeah.
Well, I'm going to get you started because we have a show to record. So let's talk about sexy confidence. And let's first start off by saying what that means. When someone hears that, what do you want them to interpret that to mean?
Well, sexy confidence, it's so interesting. So I just did a retreat with women, and I called it Spark Your Sexy. And it was really interesting because I asked that question too, like, what does sexy, first of all, even mean? And what's interesting about the word sexy and also flirting is that there's a lot of associations with those words, and sometimes good, sometimes not so good. And a lot of it has to do with our upbringing, just, our experiences around it and all of that. But, there is a big difference between, somebody who is attractive and beautiful and sexy. So it has a lot of juice to it. And, one thing, and I don't know how you talk about confidence, because I'd like to use that word first and define that. I simply see it as experience, right? Like, I don't think there's one person out there that isn't confident. It's just that if there's an area that they haven't had positive exposure or experience around, then you feel a little insecure, And so how do you get it? You practice, you get positive exposure. And so if sexiness or sex appeal is something that you're not feeling experienced around, that's what I love teaching, whether it's your clothes, your body language, your charisma, the way that you speak, because at the end of the day, that exudes kind of that attraction factor that just draws people to you. So again, like within that, there's so many nuances, but I think overall, like thinking of it as just that like positive exposure to your sex appeal is really, really cool.
Awesome. Okay. So this is for men and women, everybody.
Yes.
So and Kimmy works with both men and women. And in terms of how I think this fits in, I mean, of course it fits in everywhere in life, but why it's relevant right now in the lineup that I'm doing, why I've decided to publish this today, a couple weeks after the building self-esteem, is because, what Allison and I were talking about was more of the inside out conversation of the mental and emotional starting point. And then of course, exuding that out. And what I love about what you do too, is you do the inside out, but you also do the outside in, which can work. I mean, in fact, you're going to love this. So I'm not going to tell. This is my show. Okay. Sorry. I didn't decide whose show this was because I don't share this with everybody. So for those of you that don't know, I have a diary podcast. It's called Releasing the Goddess Within. And I bought this to wear when I record.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I love that. And I have chills because I just gave my girls at the retreat one of those.
This is like a heavy,
swear.
like, did you buy, I mean, did you give
It's probably not exactly the same one.
Well, I went to a bridal store. I went to a bridal store to get like a heavy real one. I mean, they're not diamonds, of course, but like, a significant, because I wanted the weight on my head. So just talking about the outside in, it's funny because I don't do a video. It's just for me. I record that podcast on audio and I put this on as a way to activate different neural pathways in my brain to exude and to feel into and to expand into something I don't practice every day. So again, so in talking about the outside in, it absolutely works 100%. It's like why people love Halloween. You love Halloween because it makes you feel like, it gives you the freedom. You feel free doing something different. And look at your.
So on that note,
awesome.
As we're comparing habits, I have little cat ears on, because to your point, and there's so much research out there that says is this is not superficial, that when you wear something, you actually, the body chemistry changes. In fact, there's a term called enclothed cognition that they found that when you wear certain things, that your brain even shifts. And so you perform differently. And then that signal that you send out to the world as you're performing sends something back. So it's not superficial, it's symbiotic in nature. And as we sit here with our cat ears and tiara on, I think we're going to have an amazing podcast. I'm feeling sexy confident.
Should I keep it on? Should we keep them on?
I feel like we should.
Okay.
I know.
All right. Well, this is the first time
we're talking about.
I think this is the first time I'm actually sharing it with all of you. Cause again, I don't wear it. I wore it in a mastermind, like the first mastermind of the year. And I have a guy, shout out to Ned, husband of Patty, in the mastermind this year. And I literally was wearing a cape too. And he's thinking, oh my God, does this woman show up in a tiara and a cape every time she does this? Amazing. Like, what's happening right now? And I was like, no, I don't. I just was happy to have found it, to purchase it. I was feeling very royal. I'm like, I'm just going to, play with that. And to your point about all the science in that. So who's been on the show since you've been on before? Dr. Jill Bolte Taylor, who wrote Whole Brain Living. And before that, My Stroke of Insight, based on her stroke, shutting down her left part of her brain. So we've actually had on the show the conversations about the 4 parts of the brain, not the 2 parts of the brain, the 4 parts of the brain and the different characters. And of course, the neural pathways that get created by activating the different pathways. And that physical side, to your point, is definitely one of those things that creates a new neural pathway, creates a new experience. It's not fake. It's real. It literally can change your brain patterns. And when you change your brain patterns, you change your experience, because most of the time it's going to be a new pattern that you don't use often. And so you open yourself up to different experiences. So with that said, and these fun things that we have on our heads today, I love your cat ear. So is that like a sexy kitten kind of?
Yes, it is. In fact, at my retreat, one of the things that I did is help them get into their dating costumes. So we went shopping, they got their hair and makeup done, we did a photo shoot, and then I got them sparkly cat ears with sequins, and they all had to wear red lipstick. And then I brought in bachelors for happy hour, and I had them go out dancing to I'm Too Sexy. And by the time I got done with them, right? These women were scared to death when they first walked in the door. I couldn't stop them by the time they were dancing. And the guys, their jaws were just like, what? And it was awesome because it was a total icebreaker and everyone felt immediately comfortable. And the guys gave the women feedback after and said, that was one of the sexiest, most confident rooms I've been in a really long time. And collectively, when there is that sense of confidence and sex appeal and movement in the body, it's amazing also how others can relax into it. So that's why it's so important for dating. I always tell people it's not about the man, it's not about the woman. When you feel sexy, that's when others will see that of you too. End of story. And that's why I love this, because I know you call yourself an empowerment strategist. That's the empowerment, right? That is where you can actually do something different, feel different to get a different result. So that's why I'm so passionate about all this stuff.
Well, I know you just mentioned doing your live event and, and I've got my live event coming up again in October. And that's the reason why, talking about the experience, because that you are with people in person, challenging them, pushing them through a comfort zone in order to experience something they say they want that they haven't been able to get because they don't know how to get it because they don't do the thing they need to do to get there. Right. And it's super simple, but it's the idea that this is why you and me, we do live events, because we have to, because this isn't an intellectual concept. It is, but you have to embody it to make it a reality. And the embodiment piece is important. You can't gloss over. Yeah. or, right. Oh, that's so fun. Look at her with her little, tiara on, her cat ears on, but that's goofy and silly. And that's not going to do anything for me. But until you try it, like you said, with the women out and one person started, it's like that permission that gets granted. It's all in you anyway. You're just not accessing it. And
Oh my gosh, 100%. And I love that you said that because, and I think you do too. I work with a lot of high achievers. And so, men and women. And what we know about high achievers is that you get in your head, you're very outcome oriented, you're goal oriented. And what serves you in business is usually your demise when it comes to attraction and love and this stuff that we're talking about. So when I go out and I do like wing, I don't just do retreats. I go out in the field and I do wing gal sessions and I teach people how to flirt and interact with the world and give out those signals so that they interact. It's amazing to me, how they want the formula. Like they're trying to like write down a formula that I'm teaching them. I say, don't just say it. Don't just rehearse it. I want you to do it. And the minute your point, once we do it, that's when we start having those like almost corrective experiences in our body. It's almost counterintuitive. How can you learn how to flirt, how to do body language intellectually? You can't. I mean, you can listen to this podcast and get some information, but it's not until you actually go to the bar and practice it that it's going to integrate. So it's so spot on what you're saying.
One more point about the sexy confidence, and not even just in dating, but how it does help in business.
Oh, yeah.
Right? The feminine. Okay. So bringing up your sexual energy of femininity or masculinity, depending on who you are and which one you want to present with, is the difference, especially in my world with law of attraction. That's a state of allowing. That's a state of allowing and receiving, because we all want the things, but if we're pushing and we're trying to push through and trying to make it happen, we're trying to control it. That's the opposite of allowing. That's the opposite of being open to receive. You are not in receiving mode when you're in doing mode. And I think that energy that you bring to helping people settle into that with a more specific, for dating, for connecting with people, for intimacy, for partnership, for, just human connection, that does also translate, all of you, for those of you in happy relationships or marriages or whatnot, that does translate into the rest of your life. It translates in how other people treat you, how you manifest all kinds of things, job promotions, money, clients, success.
Yeah.
It's all of it.
Everything. It is. And that's why I always crack up, because people compartmentalize like these skills around dating and business. And like, it's all the same. People want to do business with people they like. People want to date people that they like. So it's not even about what it's about how someone feels when they're around you. And all of the stuff that we're talking about has to do with the emotion that gets like elicited through the interaction of sexy confidence, like end of story, and the playfulness that can come out of that.
I love that word. Let's everyone write that down. Playfulness. That's a huge part of it. So let's talk about how one gets sexy confidence. Where do we start for those that can't work with you right now, but want to get information and take this and do it on their own? And for the ones that we'll talk about how they can get in touch with you if they want to do any of your programs or work with you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I like to actually talk about both sexy confidence and flirting has almost like three components, and it does coincide with the charisma quotient. The first is really taking a look at your wardrobe and being intentional with what you're putting on your body that makes you feel that sexy confidence. Like if you're a woman, you don't have to dress like Marilyn Monroe. If you're a guy, you don't have to, dress in a tuxedo like James Bond. But do you have updated wardrobe that fits your body, that has colors that attract one another? Because a lot of people get caught up in the drabby colors that they're hiding. I mean, that was my journey. I don't know if anyone even remembers my journey, but I went from having, the mommy clothes, the ginormous black clothes and the Birkenstocks and the nursing bra. I wasn't even nursing any longer, to finally having my red dress moment when someone said, put this on. And it was like instant, and so like when I walked out into the world in the red dress, and when my clients walk out of the dressing room and they're like having their red dress moment, whether it's color or something that is more suited to them, they walk differently. Right. And so they demand a little more attention. They have to get used to being seen. And I think that's part of the journey, because if you're not comfortable being seen, then a lot of times your clothes are acting as a cloak to keep you invisible, because you're not really comfortable and confident. So that's why I like starting with the costume first. Like if you're not comfortable putting on these cat ears or the tiara, then I think this is where you could start, you know? I also have a freestyle guide that I'll share at the end where you can even like determine what your body type is. So you know what cuts flatter your figure and what cuts to stay away from, both for men and women. So it's a great thing to do in just doing a closet audit, incorporating some color, and seeing what cuts fit your body. So that's the first area. I don't know if you have any questions around that. You want me to go on?
No, but I will tell you that since last I talked to you, I mean, I've always organized my closet in terms by color. So it goes red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, brown, and black.
Yeah.
And I have, colors. In fact, last time I placed an order for clothes, I was like, what don't I have? I don't have orange. I'm like, okay, great. That's a good shaman color, a good lower chakra color. I bought a yellow that's super bright, and it's on the Awaken Your Dream Life website.
That'd be pretty on you.
It's really, I really enjoy that shirt, but I need more of them. I've gotten more blue. I need to get some more red. I've gotten more purple. I need more purple. But anyway, so it's really fun because I'm now just shopping. I'm trying to find more color. And it helps because I'm on camera more often now too. Right.
Yes.
And so because of that, I also want to mix it up a little bit, but definitely color. Absolutely. I mean, I'm going to say I did wear, well, back then I was mostly personal training. And so I was wearing, but now I do put on makeup and put a dress or shirt or whatever on to get on camera a couple times a week. So I sort of up my game in that a little bit, but I agree that if your wardrobe needs a makeover, that to start with some colors to kind of brighten it up and get yourself in a different space.
Yeah. And make sure that the color is flattering to your skin tone too. Cause like there's various reds, not every red looks good on every body. And that's important. So find that color that you really feel confident in, and it, just kind of showcases your skin tone. But also there's been a lot of studies that show, and this is both for attraction and in business and love, is that there are trigger colors that actually attracts the opposite sex. So that's why I'll just disclose that if you're a woman and you're online, or if you walk in a room, wear red, because men are attracted to red. This is, again, scientific. It's not me saying it, it is what it is. And then in terms of business, there's certain colors that sell really well. So like selling on stage, selling on the camera. So that's why this stuff is so powerful and often overlooked, but it's something that's instant. That's what I love about it. Cause all this other stuff takes time, the internal does. But if you knew that you just put something on your body that would make a huge difference in the way that people see you, people view you, people purchase from you, like, why wouldn't you do it? It's an easy fix.
Yeah. Excellent. Okay. So what's point number 2?
Point number 2 is body language, right? So like you can do all this inner work and maybe you're dressing the part, but if you feel uncomfortable and there's something like anxious in your body language, you're not giving the signals that you are that sexy confidence in your body, then you're still hiding. So one of the things that I tell people to do, and it's such a simple thing, I mean, it'll sound really elementary, but so many people don't do it, is making eye contact and smiling. Like it's huge. The face is the first thing we all see, whether it's on camera or out and about. And, we just went through this little thing called the pandemic, and a lot of us had the masks on. And so not only did the mask, prevent us from smiling, but people also avoided eye contact with that mask. So it's almost like, trying to get used to being in that energy of like connecting with our eyes and our smile. And even before the pandemic, what was it like even before? For a lot of people, they're not even mindful of who's in the room. Like when you're walking through the grocery store, if you're walking in a coffee shop, are you mindful of who's noticing you? Are you connecting with your eyes? Are you smiling? Are you acknowledging that? Because that is super sexy and it's inviting, and you will be looked at as more approachable. So that's huge. I mean, and there's so many other nuances to that, but I think just paying attention to the eyes and the smile is really big. And if you're not comfortable looking in somebody's eyes, I always tell people just gamify it. What if you counted how many blue eyes you could see in one day? Like even if it has to be like a little hack for yourself, but it's super powerful. And as you get more comfortable, you'll see how people will connect with you more.
I love that, especially for, again, anyone who's dating or wanting to make more connection in the world.
Yep.
I think we probably had this conversation back in one of the podcasts that we did before, moving from New York City. In New York, and I don't know about other New Yorkers, but I'm pretty sure most people are looking at each other all day long, because at least I noticed that you look at each other, and whether it be a safety thing or because you're just walking amongst so many people, like you don't want to trip and fall or hit anybody. But I noticed living in New York, walking down the street, I was always looking at people. I was always looking. I wasn't necessarily smiling because I was on my way somewhere. So it wasn't one of those kinds of environments. But then when I moved to California, nobody would look up. And I'm in LA, like walking around, like nobody looks at anybody here. What's going on? And through time and noticing my own behavior, I think that there are times where some of us don't want to connect, so we purposely don't look up. And now, if you're in a situation where you're not conscious that you're not wanting to connect because you're hiding, because you don't want someone to see you, because you're embarrassed, because you're not used to being seen, that's a different topic. But if you're single and you're wanting to connect and you're wanting to date or you're wanting to make friends with people, you need to look at them. But I know, like on planes, I won't look at anybody because I'm like, nobody talk to me, leave me alone. I'm going to go to sleep. Like it's almost like the eyes mean I'm open for business. If I look at you, sometimes that's permission to people start talking to me. I'm like, don't talk to me. I'm going to sleep. So
no, that is so true. I have to tell a story that is around this. I had a call with a client, as I always do in the first, free breakthrough call that I offer. And she said, I've combed this area. She lived up in Canada, and I walk to work, and there's just no good men out there. And I always say, and this could be a whole other episode, but really, I'm like, I believe you. I actually believe that you believe that there are no good men out there, because that's all you're seeing is no good men, And so she's like, well, then how can you help me? I said, well, if you're willing to have a different perspective, if you're willing to have a different mindset and willing to have a different approach, perhaps you'll see some good men out there. So she decides to sign up with me, and I gave her her first assignment before we had our official coaching call. I said, I want you to do me a favor. I want you for the next week to continue to walk to work, take the same routine that you always do, but this time I want you to open up and look around. I want you to look to see what men might be looking at you, make eye contact with, little old ladies, babies, everybody. Just open up your energy field. So she comes back a week later and she says, Kimmy, do you have a voodoo doll? I said, no, I don't have a voodoo doll. What happened? And she said, well, I did what you said. I took the same route. And all of a sudden, I see this really handsome gentleman sitting on a bench. And he looked at me and I looked at him, and he sized up me, sized up him. And all of a sudden, I'm talking to him. And Kimmy, I can't believe it. By the end of the conversation, he asked me out. Kimmy, I already went on a date with him, and I think I like him. That guy ended up being her boyfriend, her long-term boyfriend. And it all started with a look. And it still gives me chills to tell the story, because it's so much opportunity is missed, even if you're not dating, even if, you're just like looking to network for business. Everywhere and anywhere are chances for opportunities and to connect with human beings. And I think we forget about that. So super
I think
powerful.
that's an amazing story. And I'm sure that just got a lot of people very excited to now look around, and start smiling at people. So that's awesome. Okay. So body language, and the most simple thing is, like you said, open your eyes and smile. So I love that. And then of course there's more to body language, but that is the best, easiest, fastest route that, obviously based on your story, can lead to exactly where you want to go long-term. So
well, I'll add a layer to that, and it really goes with everything in your body, and that is slowing down, right? So like you have to really slow down to be able to look at people. And we're going so fast. We're going a mile a minute. A lot of us are looking in the phones. We're like, we're not present in our environment. And so I think that is part of the whole body, so I just want to mention that. Okay. The third area is conversations, skills, and tricks. What we say is important. I mean, the first hit and first impressions, which only takes 7 seconds now, which is crazy to me. It was like 30 seconds 2 years ago. I think it's probably faster with Bumble and Tinder. But the point is that people are making judgment calls based on two things: your clothes, and your attitude. So we just covered those. So that's 93% of communication. Now, after that, then what? What comes out of your mouth is super important. And there's, I do have a social engagement formula that I teach my clients on how you get out of fact-driven, kind of boring Q&A talk into something that's more storytelling, heartfelt, personal, emotional, like all the stuff we learned in improv, right? And that's what I tell people all the time is just take an improv class and then come back and then we'll keep going, because it's such a perfect way of helping people be in their story, be in their emotion. Because again, at the end of the day, what people find really attractive is that personal, emotional, like kind of response that you get in a story, in the way that people relate to each other. Too many times, what's not sexy, I will tell you that, people will fire questions at each other based on facts. Like, where do you live? How many kids do you have? What job do you have? Da, 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 da. Like, go on LinkedIn and look at that stuff. Like that, we could do that on paper. But to just go into a meeting or go into a date and start with a story of something that just happened 5 minutes ago, like that's interesting. So again, it's how we feel with people that's important. And that is super attractive and super sexy because there's a playfulness that comes from that.
Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, I was interviewed, like I did like a pre-interview to be on somebody's podcast. And it was like the producer did the interview, and I was a little annoyed. I won't lie. I was a little annoyed that I had to do it on the phone, because I don't use my phone. I have a flip phone. I don't even have a smartphone.
You have a flip phone?
Yes,
What?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
I have an iPad. Yeah. And I text you on my iPad. I have an iPad, but I don't have a smartphone. I don't want a smartphone. And I will stay as long as I possibly can without one. I have an iPad. It's a huge smartphone. Okay.
Wait, if I could call. You still have a BlackBerry? I'm like obsessed with this now.
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I never had a BlackBerry, actually.
Oh, okay.
No, my life, if you don't have an iProduct, I can't text you. So no, my whole life is literally on my iPad, sorry.
iPad.
But anyway, so go back to it, but I had to use my phone. So I had to pull out this morning, it's so little, I couldn't even find it. Oh, here, I'll show it to you. It's right here.
Oh, I want to see it.
My little flip phone.
Wow, that's like going back in the day.
I've never not had a flip phone. Okay. So anyway, but I was looking, so I had to be on the phone, which it works just fine. But anyway, I barely turn it on sometimes. I mean, it's on right now, but I had to be on this phone. So, and I'm like, seriously, a 10 to 15 minute call and with this producer about questions. And I'm thinking, these are probably questions she probably can find out online about me or something, right? Because like, what is she going to ask me? And pleasantly, and God, I really wish I would have recorded it. I don't know how I would have on my phone, but she asked me the most interesting questions. I came off of that and I said to Doug, that was the most interesting line of questions I've ever been asked. And I was like, I wish I could have written them down because I would totally use them. Like things like, if there was an inconvenience store, what would you put in that inconvenience store? Or if you could be invisible for the day, where would you hang out? Fun. Like things like that. And then a lot more that I couldn't even remember because I was too busy trying to find the answers quickly. But I was like, that was super interesting. So not only did it create a different relationship, because I started out being annoyed that I had to have this conversation. And I was like, wow, this was really cool. This was a good experience. So even if I'm not picked to be on the show, or if I'm on the show or whatever, I have now a positive relationship just because of those questions. You could have never found those questions out anywhere else about me. So I do love when someone asks a unique question, even again, especially, I know you're talking about, flirting and dating too, but even in business.
Oh, even in business.
Yeah. And potential clients, like what lights you up? What's important to you? I'm a fact asker. I won't lie. I definitely go through like half. It's like, what's your astrology? Like I ask all the spiritual kind of questions, but then to really like get under the hood, if you will, of someone's, to see like if you match for a friend, for a business, for a client, is to find out what drives them and to find out and ask those kinds of questions. So I love that. That's a great tip for everybody. If you are on a dating site, if you're dating, or if you're just trying to get your relationship to be pumped up a little bit, maybe try asking a whole different kind of question about what turned them on today, whether it be intellectually, physically, emotionally, what turned you on today? And your partner might be like, turned me on, right? Like if we want to pump up those juices. So I love that. So just to go back, the first one was wardrobe.
Mm-hmm.
Second one was body language. Third one was conversation skills.
Yes. You got it.
So people are now they're taking their notes. They're remembering. A lot of people listen to the show more than one time. So because they listen the first time and then they go back and then they take notes the second time. So, and we're going to give them a style guide for a body type guide.
Yes.
Great. What do they do next? So what other level of sexy confidence do I do once I've done some of these?
Well, then it is practice. And, what I always tell people, so here's the thing about high achievers too, is they try to do everything all at once. And then if they don't achieve it, then, they don't feel like they've accomplished anything, and then nothing gets accomplished. So I always say, pick one thing in each area that you can practice and just get really super comfortable with it, and then gamify it for yourself and up the ante. So for body language, for instance, if you're uncomfortable making eye contact and slowing down, just practice that for say 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Once you get comfortable with that, adding a smile and saying hi to people, and you just kind of keep layering it. And this is what I tell people a lot with dating, is that people will come to me and say, find me my soulmate. And, I want a boyfriend or a girlfriend. And I say, I'm sorry, but you're not even they go at it like they're in the PhD program. Honestly, you're in kindergarten. We need to go back to basics. You're not even allowed to think about boyfriend and girlfriend. What better serves you is what kind of skills do you need to learn in order to get where you want to go. And when you're focused and really present on having, say, that sexy confidence, it actually makes it so much more fun. It really does. If you can just relax and go online and treat it like a one ginormous party. Who am I going to talk to today? Oh, I'm going to practice flirting. I'm going to practice some of my conversation skills. Let me see if I can get them on the phone. Just doing that rather than who's my next boyfriend, who's my next girlfriend, then it just, again, you will accomplish those skills, and then that will build the confidence. And then it's just keep going. Same thing with the costume, right? If you are a person who believes, let's say you're a woman, that you cannot wear a dress, then guess what? Wear a dress for 2 weeks and go to the grocery store, go to the errands, and see what kind of impact you have on people and on yourself. I did this with a woman. She really was struggling with her sexy confidence. And, this is actually do I have time for another story? Because
absolutely,
I love stories. This was just amazing. So her number one goal was to find a guy that she felt she was attracted to, because she kept attracting guys she wasn't attracted to. But the truth is that she wasn't really comfortable with her sexy confidence. So I'm like, it's not the guys, it's actually you. So we got to get you feeling really sexy and comfortable and seeing what happens after that. So, when I looked on her online profile, I saw that she was wearing really drabby clothes. She was kind of hiding. She was scared to flirt, really kind of put herself out there in the way she was talking to guys. So we just practice. So finally we got her some good clothes. And I said, before you go out on any social event, you need to be mindful and put on your costume and do some sort of prep work before you go out. Maybe it's dancing, make a playlist, really get into your play. So she was getting really good at it. Well, one day she met this guy on Hinge, and she hadn't actually connected, but she thought he was really cute. And I think they were DMing each other. That's the stage that she was at. So she has this book club that meets at the restaurant. Now, normally they don't meet at a restaurant. They meet at a house. And she's about to run out the door and just dressed in her drabby clothes like she normally does at the book club. And she stops herself and she says, Kimmy's going to kill me. She's like, I got to do my prep work. So she scrambles, gets an outfit on, looks in the mirror, she gets all spruced up. This is her telling me this. And she's like, okay, now I'm feeling sexy. And she has her music on and she goes up. So she walks into the restaurant and she does what I've been training her to do. She slows down. She's looking around. She's making eye contact. She's getting comfortable. And the guys are checking her out. She's like, Kimmy, all these guys were checking me out. I've never seen that before. I said, because you never looked. So she's looking around. All of a sudden, she sees this guy. Who is it? But the guy on Hinge. I can't make this stuff up. So they lock eyes and they acknowledge each other and they smile. And she sits at her perspective table. And then I'd say maybe 15 minutes later, he sends her a drink. They start talking, and then, they ended up dating for a while. The point of that story is, if she didn't prep herself, she didn't slow down enough to make eye contact and really feel that moment, she would have missed that whole thing. She's like, Kimmy, that was the biggest win I've ever had. That's never happened to me. I've never been that woman walking into the room and exuding that sexy confidence. So that is the next step, is that once you start practicing it, then you incorporate that in your everyday life. You don't compartmentalize it. You use it, and you'll see kind of the magic that happens from it.
That's an amazing story. So to me, in law of attraction terms, because she put her mindset right into receiving.
Yes.
Versus doing. The book club was the doing, but then she made the book club doing and being. And then she attended to that and she walked in to receive, and it all lined up. That's amazing. That's an amazing story of not only law of attraction, but her readiness to receive that which she wanted, and more specifically, the exact guy she was talking to. So I love that. That's amazing. So let's start with people. Okay. So first of all, Kimmy has a show. Sorry, I'm like Kimberly, Kimmy. Kim has a show, a podcast, which I think you did. Maybe you didn't when I interviewed you. You might not have had. Have you not been back since
I don't know. You had come on my show when I first started. You were one of my first guests on my episode.
Well, you were one of my first 10 guests when I started in 2014, because I knew you, and I went and I made sure that I interviewed everybody that I knew, and I knew a lot of people in different categories. And so, and again, Kim's first shows will probably only live on Fit to Love. So meaning, because like all episodes go to 5 shows that are active every week. But Fit to Love, it was a Courage to Date Again. I know Courage to Date Again was, I think, the first one. And then there was something about style and body image that was on there. So if you find the Courage to Date Again, it's kind of somewhere around that. And I can maybe, in case you're wondering, but this one is the upgrade anyway. So that one was good, but I don't think you had a podcast back then. So let's tell people about your podcast.
Yes, which you are going on again. I'm super excited to have you. It's Charisma Quotient, and you can, find it everywhere that you listen to podcasts. Yeah, actually, I think, DJ, you inspired me. Now that I think about it, I did not have my podcast back then. Right. And I remember coming on yours and learning about, I'm like, what's podcasting? And yeah, like that is so weird to think about, full circle. I love it.
Well, and I know I was on yours once, but I can't believe that you haven't been back on this one since you've had your show.
I know, it's so weird to me. I'm so glad we're doing this.
Yeah. All right. So please check out the podcast, and then her website to get this style guide is kimmyseltzer.com/style. Again, the link will be under this video here on YouTube or under the podcast or in the podcast show notes. So make sure to get the style guide. So explain what the guide is, because I see it's a free body type guide.
Yeah. So that is, I have one for women, one for men. The body type guide is the style guide for women. And basically it goes over the 5 body types that women have, and it shows you how to measure yourself to determine which body type you are. Then the guide goes into what clothes flatter your figure and what clothes to stay away from. So it's a great way to get started with your wardrobe audit. And then for men, I have the man's fashion manifesto, because secretly all men really do want to know this stuff, but they don't like sit around like women and talk about the latest sale at Nordstrom. So I do have some tips for you. And yes, I do go into grooming men. We don't ask for much, just clip the hair, noses. Oh God, there's so much that men don't do that could be so easy in ways of attraction. And so I go over all of that stuff. Oh my God, I'm losing my voice.
I think because you were on Doug's show.
Oh yeah.
I forget right when we first got together. And I know, because we had that conversation, it was a funny, because, he's worse than I am when it comes to style things. But he does, when he grew his beard out back in this year. So he grew it out over the holiday, and it was a little bushy. And I was like, we're going to Palm Springs. I'm like, land of the gay men. So I'm like, I'm taking you to a gay barber, and I'm going to have him chisel that beard. And he did, he styled the beard. and it was way better looking. Like we cut a lot of it off because it doesn't have to grow out, right? It can just be like little, right? And then then there were like lines, there were clear lines. And anyway, it just looked really good. So I really actually like him with facial hair. So yeah, and I end up
super sexy when it's trimmed,
right?
like
when it's not like Mountain Man. I haven't seen a human
Grizzly
in
Adams,
months, right?
Yeah.
Right. And not that his was bad when it was bushier. It's so much sexier now. Well, it's, and there's lines and chiseled and it's.
I want to see him.
All right, I'll tell him to come to say hi to you in between our recordings of our episodes, if he's free. So, okay, so you're gonna check out and you're gonna get your style guide, all men, all women, even if you are with a partner, because there's no reason why we can't all upgrade a little bit. In fact, my wardrobe has completely changed since moving. It's amazing how. Just as a side note, because I know there are a lot of people that do kind of like clean your closet. If you haven't worn it in 5 years, you're not going to wear it. Okay, that never applies to me because literally, no, it doesn't. Because I have stuff that I'll wear now that I wouldn't wear 5, 8 years ago because of whatever, because of my slow down lifestyle, because of my partner, because of my body relationship, because of my environment, because of where I live, right? It's interesting how I literally am wearing things like shorts, for instance. Like I have a pair of shorts on right now because it's 84 degrees here and I don't have the air conditioner on in my office, but and I even walk around town in them. Now, why wouldn't I wear shorts before? Anyway, it's just silly things, but it's amazing how I have my whole wardrobe has kind of shifted, and it will continue because I still want to get some other fun things and buy new bikinis and things like that. So I definitely want to recommend everybody to up level in some way from this show, because regardless if it's a relationship you want or more business or more money, let me give you the law of attraction term. It's receiving. This work will put you in receiving mode for all the things that you want. So please don't just judge it as sexy confidence, meaning if you have a great relationship, you have kids, whatever, you have a great job, you love everything about your life. All right, well, if there's anything else that you want to up level, this puts you in receiving mode. Okay, so that's all I have to say about that. Check out Kimmy's podcast. And if you want to reach out to her, again, just go to your website, kimmyseltzer.com, or follow her on Instagram or on Facebook, or
if you just plug in Kimmy Seltzer, you'll see me pop up pretty much everywhere. It's KimmySeltzer.
Excellent. Thanks, Kim, for coming back.
Thank you. Super fun. Next time we'll have to have different costume pieces.
Okay, well, I got to go find one. Okay.
I know.
All right, everybody, get yours out and start playing.